So I have to admit, I was just recently released from the hospital after a pretty bad bout with pneumonia. So if I am a little out of breath or not quite looking as beautiful as I would like, that's why. But it did not stop me from wanting to complete this video because this is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is YouTube's pros and cons in education. According to the publication The Guardian, YouTube is now the new children's TV. We're starting to hear terms such as digital babysitter, and you couple that with things like the word clickbait, and it doesn't exactly sound like something that would be good for kids, especially when you see some of the things, the crazy things that people are doing, both parents and children, to get those clicks online. It could be actually very scary and definitely not something that we want students to see. But YouTube actually does have some outstanding educational content as well, and things that could be good for kids. And when you think about what we want from a learner, the fact that we want their personal interests to drive what they're looking for and what they're learning, YouTube could be quite fantastic because here you have these kids able to jump down a rabbit hole of content into things that actually interest them, things that actually drive their learning. And especially in today's mastery based teaching practice world, this is definitely something we want. We want them to learn. It's our whole thing, right? So, as a second grade teacher, I deal with one of the most sensitive and most impressionable school age groups out there. And so, this is on my mind a lot. Should something be used just for the sake of using it, or do we have an obligation to make sure that what we're using has an enhancement over what we would use anyway, right? And so what if I introduce them to something on YouTube and then it turns out bad and they go and try look for things on their own that is not quite successful? So I'm very hesitant to use the word YouTube. However, most students already know it. They've used it. They've been on it. And now it becomes my obligation to make sure they're using it correctly. And here's where my number one rule of the pros and cons comes into play, and that is common sense. Common sense is number one. I mean, obviously, in a classroom, teachers are going to have the students' best interests at heart. They're going to keep them protected. They're going to use YouTube as an enhancement. There is times where a read aloud from YouTube will result in far better engagement than I am able to accomplish by reading that book on my own. And so by using that and creating that level of engagement to make the lesson better, then my obligation would be to use that tool, to use that technology to better my teaching practices. If I'm putting it on to kill time and I'm taking a break while kids are watching YouTube, well, then obviously that's a bit unethical. But as far as YouTube is concerned, the sky is the limit. I can go on there and find science experiments. I can find geographical locales, things that books just can't quite make it as exciting as YouTube can. And I'm capturing my audience, my students, in ways that they would never be captured before. So in that sense, it is my obligation then to use that as a tool because it becomes far much more exciting. But again, there's that common sense piece. I need to make sure that I am previewing, that I'm making sure that the content has not been tampered with, that what pops up next is something I want my students to see. There's a horror story another second grade teacher loves to tell about how she was playing what she thought was a very innocent video, only to find that the advertisement that popped up without her knowing had people that were not fully clothed. And she ended up having to contact parents. And of course, this is something that we never want to have happen to us. But again, that common sense piece, taking a few extra minutes to preview to make sure the content is exactly what we want it to be, that it is from a trusted source, will help with that. And of course, arming parents that common sense at home is also key. Parents need to be aware of what their children are doing, period. What are they watching? Where are they watching it from? Do they have a home base set up someplace in the house where that access to online is, where it's easily seen? Are they taking a look at their child's viewing history? Are they talking about what is safe and what is not safe in terms of the kinds of searches that they do? This can prevent your child from seeing a lot of the things that you don't want them to see, especially in terms of that clickbait that we talked about before. There are a lot of things out there that they want your child to see. They want those clicks so that they can get that advertising. And some of those pieces of content simply are not good for kids. But again, if we're watching them and we are arming them and we're making sure that have good choices, and those boundaries are set, that's going to help with a lot of that. And finally, just making sure that the videos are credible. When it comes to educational content, who is putting it out there and why? Are they advertising something? Are they trying to show a certain viewpoint that might be slanted in one way or another? And just having children especially make sure that they know the difference between credible and non-credible sources on YouTube. Could the content be skewed? Just arming them with the ability to make those credible searches and what places are good places to watch from, and create those playlists from, so that you have that home base of good educational content both in the classroom and outside. This again has been Kelly Ayers, and just a few of YouTube's pros and cons here in education. Thank you so very much for watching.